Hello, everyone. Tony here. I made it. This is a good thing. Yeah. Tonight's going to be a good training. I am using a new microphone, so I'm going to do a quick sound check. Let me know how I sound, if I'm coming through okay or not. And I will just wait calmly. We're going to be talking about public domain again tonight, something I haven't talked about in a little while. So that's going to be fun. Basically, what I'm sharing with you tonight is a lot of it comes from matter of fact, almost all of it comes from a module from a course that I created last year, I think, that I never taught. And this is module 3. So yay, I didn't teach the course, but you still get to benefit from it for free anyway. So I probably won't really teach the course now since I'm just giving you all module 3. But anyway, I'm happy to do that because I think you're going to find this really helpful. And I keep looking at the microphone and y'all are like right there. I'm using split screens. Kristen is over here to my left, typing away. We're finally getting our place set up to where we can, yeah, very, very adult. To where we can move around. We only have.
Which side I'm going to be poking my head in on it.
Oh, how many bins do we have left?
12.
No,
11. I emptied another one.
Only 11 bins left to empty.
11.
I'm not optimistic we'll fit them.
We will not fit it all.
But anyway.
I'm just real.
Yeah.
I'm just real. We're not going to fit it all.
So enough chit chat. Yeah. I do have some more announcements, but I will give those at the end. Okie dokie. No, Debbie, we do not have room left.
We have one entire shelf in the kitchen I haven't even touched yet.
Although it is starting to look pretty spiffy in all of our craziness. All right, so I'm going to go full screen here. And we will dig in. All right. Let's make this kind of official and all. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Expert Media Webinars. This is your host and teacher, Tony Leidig. Hello. And tonight we're going to talk about specialized public domain text research. And I've talked around this topic, obviously, many times over the last 15 years. And I thought it would make sense for us to revisit it in a very specific kind of way, because even though there's a ton of content in the public domain, around 2 billion books or so, finding what you actually need and can use for products is another story. It's not always easy. That's what I found, although I've made it a lot easier, I think. And what I've discovered and the methods that I use, I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. So before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about copyright. And I want you to understand that copyright rules and term lengths vary by country. I think you all know that, but it still factors in. And so it's important that you do your own due diligence and research, and also realize that the rules can also vary depending on type of content. In other words, in the US here, I know that some of you may live in other countries, but in the United States, the copyright terms are more or less the same, but how people responded to those terms are a bit different. And like a really good example of that would be with regard to, say, magazines and periodicals, right? So the majority of magazines and periodicals, like newspapers, comics, all of that, they never renewed their copyright. A very small percentage of them did. Maybe, I forget what it is. It's like 13% or something like that. But the rest did not, because they saw it as a time sensitive um, magazine or comic or whatever. And so who's going to want to do anything with, a January 1921 issue of some magazine, even 5 years from then, or 10 years, much less 100. And of course, we who are in the know regarding all things public domain raise our hand and say, thank you very much. Uh, we'll use it because content is content, right? It may need freshened up and it may need rewritten or handled in a different way, but it still works well for us. And so, yeah, you want to pay attention to that. Now, also understand, of course, I am not a copyright attorney, nor do I play one on Facebook. And so
You say you were not a copyrighted Tony.
I am
I
a
thought you were
copyrighted. I am a copyrighted Tony. I am not a copyright attorney. Tony 6.0 is copyrighted. Jeez.
Sorry. I don't get to be a fly on the wall. This is fun.
This is true. All right. So the best place to find copyright term lengths by country is right here. It's Wikipedia. I use Wiki1 just because I tend to like it a little bit better. But it lists out all of the various countries and their copyright lengths. There's some cool dynamics that kind of play out with this, like most other countries, not United States, kind of make it simple. Usually life of the author plus 70 years. And so whenever that 70-year time period ends, all their works go into the public domain. Here in the United States, we like to make it as difficult as possible, usually following the professional advice of a mouse, also known as Walt Disney. And so our copyright terms are all kinds of screwed up because people paying the government lots of money to control things. Not that that happens today, but back then it did. So anyway, let's get into the actual training. I just wanted to kind of lay some ground rules there since we haven't talked about this in a little while. So let's start off by doing the research. So let's say you have a project that you want to create and you need text for, and you're not really feeling the AI writing thing, which, by the way, we will be talking more about that later this year. New tools. Ooh, but geez, it's going to be one of them nights. So you want to create a project, or you're working on something. Say, I don't know, you need descriptions for an Oracle deck that you happen to be designing. And there's certain inspirational sayings that you want to create, but you can't use present day quotes because those are still protected by copyright, and fair use won't cut it. So you need some inspiring words that you can use for said Oracle deck, or fill in the blank. Where are you going to get it from? Well, you could write it yourself, of course, or you can glean it from the public domain. But where, oh, where would we find that content in the public domain? Well, the good news is that there's a nearly limitless supply of content that's in the public domain, depending on the topic that you're talking about. I mean, if it's a modern day topic, guess what? You may or may not find, well, you won't find any older books that are on that topic, but there are a lot of blogs and different websites like that that have dedicated all of their content to the public domain as a movement, which I find pretty cool. We're not going to be talking about any of that tonight, though. We've covered that in the past. But the real key here is to understand how to unlock this content. And ultimately, it comes down to keywords. Okay. Keywords related to your topic. Now, that can present a little bit of a challenge And the reason why is because maybe we don't know what the best keywords are for our topic, because we're familiar with current keywords related to our topic, but maybe different words were used 100 years ago, which in many cases is definitely the case. So one of the things that I do, like for instance, the topic that we're going to talk about tonight as a case study is self-help. Okay, there's a few of us who are interested in that topic. So self-help. Self-help is a newer word or word phrase. And it's not the kind of phrase that was necessarily used 100 years ago or 120 years ago or whenever. Right now, we are at, let's see, 1927 and earlier is where we are copyright-wise in the United States, unless the copyright wasn't renewed. And so where on earth would we find other words that are related to self-help that maybe we are not currently thinking of? Okay. Well, I'll share a couple of the sites that I use. One of my favorites probably is relatedwords.org. And I like this site a lot. Let's take a flip over there. Oops. It always puts it in the wrong browser. Let's put it in here. So relatedwords.org, what's cool about this is you can type in a keyword or keyword phrase like self-help and do a search, and it gives you all of these related words. Now, some of them may be more related to what you're interested in than others, but the object of the game here is to kind of help you think more outside your box, right? And so like homeschooling, I don't really see how that's self-help necessarily, although, you know, an argument could be made these days. But psychotherapy, psychology, aid assistance, leadership, so on and so forth. And what's cool is that you can see something like self-improvement, and then click on related words, and it gives you related words to that. So you can really dig into some interesting options, potential options for keyword searches that you want to do to help you find these public domain books. Okay. And let's see, another site that I like to use, which is owned by the same company, is reversedictionary.org. And then, of course, there is the ever important synonyms, right? So you can use a thesaurus, which sometimes I use thesaurus.com. I don't have it in this list. Synonyms.com, though, is a pretty cool site. Synonyms.com. And it's kind of the same thing, you know, type in, say, self-help or any other number of words. And it breaks it down. It gives paraphrases, self-handling, self-support, self-reliance. It gets into visual synonyms, translations into other words or other languages, I mean. All kinds of cool things. Just lots of cool information here. And then another one, which we will get to on the slides, is called wordhippo.com. And same kind of thing. It's a thesaurus. So I'll just use self-help. And so it breaks it down, you know, it tells you that it's a noun, do it yourself, how to, counseling, whatever, personal development, personal growth, self-guided improvement, self-improvement. On and on it goes. For those of you who hear the airplane right now in the background,
I hit pause. I don't know why it's doing
that. The cat's robot is having a moment. Oops. All right. So wordhippo.com, another good site where you can find words. So one of the things that I will typically do is make a list, and we'll talk about that in a minute once we get to our next slide here. Oh, word associations is another one that I really like. So typically I will start with Google, but you also don't want to overlook like eBay, WorthPoint, Wikipedia, especially if you're searching for specific books. I also sometimes use auction sites, just different places like that. Etsy is another one where you can do research. It's also important to understand that some of the words that were used 75 to 100 years ago are often different than words we use today. And so usually it's challenging to just off the top of your head know what those words even are, but you'll find that as you begin to dig into the research, some of those words will reveal themselves. Like a good example in the self-help movement back 100 years ago is a phrase, new thought. Okay, so they used the phrase new thought, which was basically a synonym to self-help. Okay, so but you don't know that until you start digging into the content. So again, it goes back to keeping a running list of keywords, because one of the things that I found in drilling down into the rabbit holes, also known as the public domain, is that the better keywords you have, the better success you're going to have, because it's the keywords that guide you. Now, not all the keywords that you're going to discover are necessarily just random words. Okay. It also, you draw from the print content itself. So like, for instance, you want to identify author names. An easy way of doing that is like early self-help authors or something like that, just using that phrase. The book titles, like you don't know what you don't know, right? So in finding book titles that are related to the topic that you're interested in, you might want to use a word like vintage. So vintage self-help books. Okay. Magazines. Same basic thing as books, vintage self-help magazines. And then, of course, there's newspapers. And these are the two newspaper sites that I use primarily. Well, not primarily, exclusively. But you can find a lot of great information in there as well. And I'd recommend not overlooking newspapers unless you're just finding a huge amount of content. Because again, it's one of those things where the majority of them never renewed their copyrights, but you had regular writers that would submit articles for the newspapers for that given day or whatever. And very often those writers were also publishing books on the same topic, also writing into magazines for the same topics and so on. So like, for instance, if we come over here to our browser again, and we type in a search for vintage self-help magazines. Now, self-help may or may not get us to where we need to go. That's why you need the list of keywords. And we'll dig into that as an example here on the next page. So here we have self-help 1900 to 1949 antiquarian and collectible books. Okay, so that can point us in a direction. And so we have Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, definitely in the public domain. What else do we have here? Know Thyself, or Nature's Secrets, 1916. So that's definitely in the public domain. So just from this search result on eBay, we can already identify a number of books that may work for us. Now, some of these are physical copies of those books. A lot of them may be in the public domain, but what you want to do and what you want to pay attention to is author names and book title names and other potential keyword phrases that may be important in your search. So like here, for instance, science of mind, questions and answers on the science of mind. So science of mind is a good keyword phrase. It's one that Ernest Holmes used quite a bit, but he wasn't the only one, only because I've studied this topic for a long time. And so you want to go down through. Ralph Waldo Treen, character building, thought power. So that's another interesting keyword phrase, thought power. And so just as a for instance, maybe you like the sound of that. Sounds like it could fit in well with what you're wanting to do here. I don't know what's going on here. Go away. So like, for instance, what I would do is copy this here, do another search with just that phrase, character building, thought power. You can buy it on Amazon. So I'm not interested in a physical copy of it, but I see over here, get book, Google Books, free PDF, download. Thank you very much. And voila. So now we have our first book on this topic that I can go through and scour to see if I can find other books, other keyword phrases, so on and so forth. But I want to point some things out to you. Right here, see this section in the front. All of these books written by the author, all in the public domain. So now we can start building a list of book titles. And another thing that you want to look at that you will sometimes find in some of these books, and I don't know if we will on this one. It's been a long time since I looked at this book. Let's see here. Okay. So here are other books written by the author. Looks like In Tune with the Infinite, right on. What All the World's a Seeking. You gotta love some of these titles. The Greatest Thing Ever Known. I mean, you know, who wouldn't want to know that? Every Living Creature. Yeah, so it looks like it's just a bit of a bibliography of the author, but another thing that you can pay attention to as you're going through these books is if they reference other authors. Okay, we're looking for information, right? We're looking for keyword phrases, or in this case, maybe quotes that we can use from this given book. So this isn't a new or a super fast thing in some cases. I mean, honestly, in some cases, you can find a lot of content really quickly. And in other cases, maybe not so much. So here is a partial list of popular personal growth topics, which is another newer phrase along with self-help. And these are ones that I discovered as I was going through this exact process of what I shared with you. New Thought, Mentalism, Mental Science, Divine Science, Mastery, Prosperity, Psychology, Mentology, Metaphysical, Success, Spirit, Masterful, Dynamic Thinking, Vibration, Healing, Awakening, Thought Force, Higher Life, Consciousness, Efficiency, and Occultism. So you'll probably notice that I would say a solid half of the words or phrases on this list, and this is a small list, really aren't even used today. But we can still use them as a starting point because we're looking for, in this case, older materials, those in the public domain. We can still use those as a keyword phrase that we can search for. Yeah, Debbie's right. It's just another way of saying science of mind. And so some of the websites that I discovered, because I probably should have put this on the list, but in some cases, we're not necessarily just looking for the books or magazines. Sometimes the content is right on websites, or there are websites dedicated to the topic that we're interested in. And that's what I discovered as I was doing my research. So I found NT Writers, which is New Thought Writers. We have the New Thought Library, which is at newthoughtstreams.com. Classics in the History of Psychology, Christian Classics Ethereal Library, Sacred Text Archive, Lessons in Truth, Unity Way Library, online books page for New Thought, which is the University of Pennsylvania, and IAPSOP, no idea what on earth that stands for, but they have good content there. So just with this page alone, those can help me find some of these websites that, maybe otherwise I may not have discovered, or some of the books that I may not have ever discovered. And so before we get moving on here, so like, let's say Wikipedia. This is 90 pages, basically 90 different New Thought authors that I can go through and explore. Now, some of these are newer present day authors, some of them are not. So again, it comes down to doing your due diligence and all of that. There's quite a number of these, and I know for a fact that have content in the public domain. And so, I could go to their page. Like, obviously Wayne Dyer is a newer author, right? But someone like who do we got here? Samuel Smiles, Florence Scovel Shinn. Let's see, who else? Elizabeth Town. Here's Ralph Waldo Treen, Thomas Troward, Wallace Wattles, Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Like, these are all older authors. GKS, and what do you do with the content? It really depends. Like, you want to start off with a project in mind. That's what we're talking about here. Let's say there's something that you need content for. Maybe you want to develop recipes for, create a recipe book on desserts. Same rule applies. Maybe you want to create a course that's low impact exercises, right? There's just a lot of different, you have to start with the end in mind. Like, what do you need content for? Like, in my case, I'm working on a series of Oracle card decks. I need content for the books. I mean, some of it I'm going to write myself for sure, but in some cases, if I don't have to write it, hooray, it just saves me time and effort. Now, granted, it still takes some effort to find the content, don't get me wrong, but it really depends. Pick a topic, any topic, whatever you're passionate about. I mean, you can use this exact same approach on pretty much any given topic, right? Photography. Sure, 100 years ago, technology was different, but, framing your shots and getting your exposure right and all of that kind of thing, it's still all the same. So you want to start with an end in mind. What kind of product do you want to create first? So this will work for books that you're putting together, or courses that you want to teach, or a blog post, or YouTube videos, or whatever. Thanks, Debbie, for looking that up. That is a mouthful, isn't it? Amy says also look at related teachers like Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was Ernest Holmes' teacher. Yeah, and another thing that kind of reminds me, another thing to keep in mind here is that in some cases there were some writers who went by multiple different names. And the reason why they did that is because maybe they wanted to write about a slightly different topic. And so they would use multiple names. One that comes to mind is William Walker Atkinson, notorious. I think he wrote under 3 or 4 different pen names, which isn't uncommon. I mean, you know, it's still common today, but just something to keep in mind. All right. So, of course, I also, in my searching and due diligence, discovered a number of self-help magazines, and here's a partial list. The Nautilus, which is awesome. I have quite a few of these. Science of Mind, Daily Word, Practical Ideals, The Temple, American Spiritual Magazine, Supernatural Magazine, Advanced Thought. Now, this is just a few. Although some of these have quite a number of issues, like the Nautilus, for instance. One thing that you want to pay attention to is not just the articles in magazines or in newspapers and so on, by the way, because there can be a lot of interesting ads as well. Can point you to new books, to courses, or whatever. Mental demons, are they holding you back? Right? So what this tells me is that there is a course out there somewhere called Effective Public Speaking and Mental Development that perhaps we could also track down. Yeah, Thomas is right. Magazines are gold. Honestly, in many cases, magazines are a quicker go-to for me than books. Truth be told. But Nautilus Magazine, A New Thought. Here's one of the covers. Affirmations I use and why. I think that'd be handy if you wanted to create a series of, well, I'll just stick with my personal case study, Oracle cards. And let's say that I want to encourage people and have encouragements or affirmations related to each card, right? Well, this particular issue of Nautilus Magazine has a whole list of them. Okay. And so, yeah, you can dig into it. I'm not talking about music at all tonight, Debbie. Completely different animal. Thomas says, this tells me people have been thinking about this for a long time. Oh, yeah. People definitely want to be encouraged and understand. Right around the turn of the century, like very late 1800s, going into 1900, there was quite the renaissance where people were starting to realize that there was something to our subconscious mind. And that's where a lot of the whole concept of new thought and thought power and all of that, really the foundation of the law of attraction, but it goes much, much further back, you know, to like the emerald tablets and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, remember that a lot of these types of practices that we so fondly refer to today as new thought or metaphysical or whatever, you know, there was a day and time where a lot of that would have been considered witchcraft. You know, what people don't understand, they tend to fear, and there you have it. So in my searching, of course, I also turned up a number of self-help authors like Orson Swett Martin, which he's one that I really like a lot. As a matter of fact, I have a published version of 1 or 2 of his books on Amazon. Pushing to the Front was his first book, I believe, in 1894. How to Succeed, Success, The Adventures of, or Secret of Achievement, Every Man a King, Optimistic Life, He Can Who Thinks He Can, Peace, Power, and Plenty, Miracle Right Thought, which is an excellent book, by the way. Victorious attitude, how to secure health, wealth, and happiness, how to get what you want. Like, these are topics that are relevant today, but yet they were written in the teens. Making Life a Masterpiece, Love's Way, You Can But Will You. That's another excellent book. That's one of the ones that I've published on Amazon. Prosperity and How to Attract It, right? Another great author I mentioned earlier, William Walker Atkinson. Thought Force in Business and Everyday Life, Thought Vibration, The Secret of Mental Magic, Secret of Success, The Art of Expression and the Principles of Discourse, The Art of Logical Thinking, Dynamic Thought, How to Read Human Nature, The Inner Consciousness, Practical Mental Influence, Self-Healing by Thought Force, very prolific guy, again. Suggestion and Autosuggestion, very interesting book. Telepathy, Its Theory, Facts, and Proof, Your Mind and How to Use It. A Manual of Practical Psychology. Now, I've read several of his books, and I will say his writing style is a hard read. It just really is a hard read. And compared to like Gorse and Sweat-Martin and some of the others, I mean, the content is good, but you know, we have a current day phrase called mansplaining, of course, which isn't quite what he did, but I think his explanations of some of his concepts he made harder than they needed to be. So his content is really ripe for a good rewrite. Wallace Wattles is another one, very popular writer. Science of Getting Rich is huge as a book. Science of Being Great, Science of Being Well, Genevieve Beyrand. Attaining Your Heart's Desire, Your Invisible Power, another great book. How to Live Life and Love It, Charles Hannell. The Master Key System, which may be a very familiar book to some of you. Mental Chemistry, Brown Landone, How to Turn Your Desires and Ideals into Realities, another super excellent book. The Success Process, and then Neville Goddard, Power Awareness at Your Command, which is probably his most popular. Feeling is the Secret, Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It, Your Word is a Wand, Secret Door to Success, Ralph Waldo Train, who we were talking about earlier, In Tune with the Infinite, Character Building, Thought Power, and Robert Collier, another of my personal favorites. Reading Robert Collier's books back when I first discovered them 15 years ago were really life-changing for me. I had no idea. The God in You, The Magic Word, Secret of the Ages was the one that really did it for me personally. Just a really wonderful book. The Secret Power and Riches Within Your Reach. And so this is just a small sampling of New Thought books. Okay. And these are just the books and some of the magazines and everything. But and that's just for this one topic. But we can literally pick just about any topic and do the same kind of drilling down. What I recommend is I'm a huge fan of Evernote. And so I just have running lists, running list of keywords, book titles, book phrases, magazine phrases, or magazine titles, book titles. Yeah. Newspapers, if there are any, whatever. And I just keep a running list and then I dig. And if you're really wanting to like not have to buy these books off of eBay or some smelly old used bookstore or whatever, which I would not recommend, a lot of these are actually available online, and not all the books in the public domain are online, obviously, but many of them are. You can start off with Google or University of Pennsylvania or some of those places and find them. But if you do a simple search, like let's just choose Secret of the Ages, because I have no idea if this would actually be online or not. Let's see, Secret of the Ages by Robert Collier. So, Secret of the Ages by let's see, Kindle Store. So a lot of people are selling it. So if it is available anywhere, you can try PDF. Now this is a premium. It may not download it. But you can do include a keyword like PDF. You can include download, simple phrases like that. I do check Project Gutenberg. That's one of the sites that I go to for sure. So here, if we sign up, like, can we download it without having to sign up? Oh, click here. Oh, so this is Lessons in Truth, which is one of the sites that I mentioned. So here you have it. Just really that simple. Anne says, check your local libraries and their extended systems. Yeah, I've done that a few times, and that can be very helpful. I don't know if it's on Sacred Text, Amy. It may be. And that's why I wanted to share that list with you earlier. Let's go back to the slides here for a minute. If you're searching for self-help specifically, you could check Sacred Text or whatever, but that's where having the list of books, and book sites can come in handy. I guess I didn't do it. I had a list of starting websites where you can find a lot of books that are in the public domain, like Gutenberg, and what else would be a good one to include there? Europeana, Hothy Trust is another good one to dig around in. Google Books. Excuse me. Let me take a quick drink of water. But a lot of the big library sites that are online, you can find a lot of these books, depending on the kind of book that you're looking for. Donna asks, can you republish as is by the author without changes, or do we make changes? I always get that question, and I hate that question. No offense, but I always recommend changes. Like, anybody can republish a book, and you won't make any money from it. It's just really that simple. To me, that's a bit of a lazy person approach. But take something. We're talking about building on the shoulders of giants. So you're a unique person, an individual. So take what has been given to us and make something awesome and new with it. We already have the original book. We don't need a republished version of it. What we need is that wisdom presented in different ways that can benefit and help people. So my answer is, can you republish it as changes or without changes? yes, you can. I would very strongly recommend not doing that. And then the next question that I usually get is, well, if we change it, how much do we have to change it? And that's like kind of like asking how long is a piece of rope. There is no answer. I usually recommend 40%, but again, 40% is literally a number I pulled out of the air. Just make it your own, you know? You are obviously not, and I don't mean you, Donna, I mean you in the general sense of everyone here. You are a unique person, nobody else like you on the planet. And here we have this gift of millions of books written by other people that we can now draw from because of copyright laws. So, it's kind of like making a really good margarita. You need some good tequila, which is the original book, and you need a good blend of other ingredients. Maybe it's a tequila mix that you buy, but more than likely, if you want to make it from scratch, you have a little this and that you mix in, and then you shake it all together and pour it into a glass, right? That's what we're after. You know, I'm not about to drink straight up tequila, but I'll have margaritas all day long until I fall over and pass out, at least. Look at me talking like I'm a pro at drinking margaritas. We barely even drink. But anyways, it's a half decent analogy. So add your own awesomeness to this content. It really will make a difference. The only exception that I would say would be if you're using direct quotes, but usually those are like a sentence long, right? I mean, maybe you draw several from the same book, and in that case, you're already giving credit to the author anyway. But to take the wisdom that was shared 100 years ago and then release it again in your own words as inspiration, to me, that's what it's all about. That and hokey pokey, as Lori just mentioned. So the dates for copyright really depend on where you are. If you're here in the US, the way the law currently works is that it is 95 years from the date of publication. Okay, so if you do backwards math, 2022 minus 95 years, you're going to land at 1927. So 1927 and earlier, those books and magazines and so on and so forth are in the public domain. Also, any books or magazines that were published in later years, but they never renewed their copyrights, okay? Because copyrights had to be renewed 28 years after first publication. So let's say that they published a book or magazine in 1930, and it's perfect for what you need. So based on the 28-year rule, in 1958, they would have had to renew that copyright. If they did, that book is not in the public domain. If they did not renew that book in 1958, it is in the public domain. So a large majority of the books that are in the public domain here in the United States come from that period of time before 1964 that did not renew their copyright. And so, like I said earlier, United States rules are a little more convoluted just because of various changes made to copyright law and stuff like that. But when it comes to one other key date, 1964 would be it. Anything after 1964 that was published in after 1964, if the author, unless the author dedicated it to the public domain, which that did happen on occasion, those books are all still in copyright. So, so there you have it. So Vicky asks, what would be a good site for metaphysical material? Are you looking at your screen? Literally every site listed on the screen right now are metaphysical websites. Not to be a smartass, but I mean, come on. Kind of can't get more obvious than that. Amy says, I used to have a horse named Tequila. Her birth name, not my choice, but as a margarita lover, it was perfect name. That's pretty cool. Debbie says, fun fact, the year that my mom was born, she just died last year after a long, full life. That's very cool. Not cool that she died, but yes, metaphysics is the topic of the day. And I mean, honestly, it's a broad topic. It takes in a lot of different types of things. Mark says, I think the rethinking and presenting old info in a relevant now way is in sync with the original spirit of the public domain so that stuff wouldn't fall into obscurity. Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's exactly why copyright terms exist, is so that we wouldn't lose a lot of the writings and everything to history. Thank you, Liz. Enjoy your other meeting. We'll see you soon. We're wrapping things up here anyway. One thing I do want to show you all, you all are smart, so you probably already know this. I'm a latecomer. I just figured this out a couple weeks ago. Did you know that Apple has OCR built into its Photos app?
You didn't know that?
Well, I knew it as of like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I'll say I've been playing with that for a month now.
Yeah, it's about a month.
Month plus. It's
But
the latest update.
Oh, so I don't know if any of the non-iPhone products have this, because I don't own one of those. But basically, the way it works, too many screens. You take a photo of a page with text in it. You go to your Photos app and open up the photo. Hold your finger down on the text until it highlights, and then slide the selection to include the text you wish to copy, or choose select all and then tap the text to bring up the copy feature and tap copy, and then paste it wherever you want to use it. So I took this picture earlier of this book that I have. It doesn't even have to be perfectly straight. That's the thing that I like about it. And so then I held my finger on it and highlighted it all. I basically chose select all, copied it, and then pasted it into notes. Now, the one thing that, and I found that the accuracy is phenomenal, probably about 98, 99%. The one thing about it that I don't like, if we're going to complain, which I'm not, is that where the sentence breaks are, it puts in a hard return. And so you have to go in and delete those if you want. But yeah, I use this all the time now. I discovered it by accident because I took a picture, one of the Oracle decks that I use every morning. I was reading in their booklet and back a month ago, and to get the meaning for the card. And I took a picture of it just so I wouldn't forget it because I was so impressed with it. And I was flipping through the photos and I found it. And I happened to be holding my phone in a way that my thumb was on the picture. And all of a sudden, one of the words highlighted. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And that's how I discovered it. It was just a random thing. But so now I use it not every day, but just about every day. But the good news is that because of that, you don't require special apps or anything like that the way it used to be. I mean, hell, you can go into a library or bookshop or whatever and just start taking pictures of pages of books in the public domain or magazines or whatever. And then whenever you get home, highlight it, copy, paste it into an Evernote doc or whatever, and boom, there you go. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Now, Kristen said that it's new with the latest update, so it may require that you have the latest iOS. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was cool. Very fun kind of thing. All right. Let me scroll up here a little bit. There are a couple questions I missed. Lauren says, Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit, I thought was in the public domain. However, someone told me that as a family member republished it. It is not in the public domain. How can I check this? So it's kind of a yes and no kind of thing. So my understanding, and again, not lawyer, my understanding though is that Peter Rabbit is indeed in the public domain. Okay. However, that said, the republished version would not be. Okay. So in other words, if you wanted to do something with Peter Rabbit, you would have to have an original, like whenever it was published. And I'm not sure what the date was. Let's see. Beatrix Potter, Harry Potter's mom. The joke. Rabbit. So let's see here. Originally published 1901. Yeah, obviously in the public domain. But if you wanted to do something with the text or the illustrations or whatever, it would have to be from the original books. Okay. And it looks like it's, they have something here about it on Wikipedia. Um, 1901 privately printed, 1902 trade printed. So as long as you have an edition that was printed before 1927, you're good. No. One thing that I do not know and that you may want to explore is whether any of those phrases were trademarked. That could put a wrinkle in things, but I don't think so. I mean, you can always research that on uspto.gov, U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Oh, Amy said, I just checked and Android has just added that. Also just added that. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of the Winnie the Pooh books are now in the public domain as well as of this year, which is kind of cool. Yeah, Disney is, Tom mentioned Disney. Disney is a master at republishing and using things as templates. Last I counted, and I'm pretty sure that it's higher now, Disney had over 60 movies that are based on public domain stories. And I would venture to guess, just thinking about some of their latest titles over the last couple of years, they're probably up to 70 or 75. So why not? I mean, they've made billions off of it. I like billions. Okay, so one thing that I want to reiterate again, and I'll probably reiterate this every week until we're ready to rock and roll, and that is there's been a lot of question about whether or not Nerd Unscripted was returning. After all, it's been over a year since the last one that I did, 16 months, I think. And the answer is yes, I am. And I mentioned it last week in last week's webinar, the mother of all updates. But we are relaunching it, rebooting it, whatever you want to call it, under the name Unscripted and Magical, so that it ties in with our YouTube channel by that same name. And the videos, I'm probably going to do them in this format rather than just audio like I did before. And then the audio versions will be published to SoundCloud and iTunes and all of that. But there may be video that I'll publish to YouTube. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't decided on that. But May 5th, I think it is whenever that is going to start. It's going to be on a Monday. Initially, I was thinking Tuesdays, like I did previously, Tuesday at noon, and then have Expert Media Webinar at 6. But, it's a busy day. So I decided that since I'm mostly teaching courses now on Thursdays, whenever I start that again, it will be Mondays and probably at noon if you want to join me live. And Kristen and I will be doing some of them together, some of them not. Mondays, our store's closed, and so she will be here with me. So she'll have things to share as well, which is awesome. And the first one is going to be really, really cool. We mentioned a little bit about it last week. Marjorie says Monday is May 2nd. Maybe that's what the date is, actually. I don't know. Yeah, May 2nd. I'm sorry. You're right. I don't know why I was thinking the 4th, but May 2nd is the correct time. I make this shit up as I go along. What can I say? But May 2nd, you're definitely going to want to catch it. The first one especially, it's going to set the tone for the rest of them. And the reason why is because I'm revisiting the whole Library Chronicles kind of thing, like I was talking about before. But a lot has happened with all of that since December of 2020. And I'm getting fresh downloads every day. And some of them, most of them, are just off the hook. I mean, they're crazy. Some of the things that I've been shown and told, and some of them are very personal and for me alone. But some of the other concepts are just something else. And Chris and I were checking dates here before we went live of a series of events, like the insight that I'm going to be sharing on the first one. I'm sharing, and I think Kristen will be with me, because of the impact that it's had on our lives. I was shown something very... I'm not going to give it away. I was shown something very specific, a methodology that at first was given to me personally. I later realized that it would work for anybody. And this methodology, we were checking the dates of it all. And I was given this download, these insights, which I'll share with you in a second, on one day. And that started a series of events that over the course of 30 days has resulted in
$650,000.
yeah, $650,000 of money that has come into our possession. That includes the sale of our house and the sale of my car and all of those kinds of things, none of which were happening. We were not getting any traction on at all on any of it. Zero money, zero sales, zero any of that. And then this one thing happened that I'll share, and everything just started clicking into place phenomenally. I mean, just insane. And so it wasn't a one-shot deal or some special thing or because, I'm freaking awesome. It had nothing to do with that. Because
But you are freaking awesome.
I am freaking awesome, but we tested it out on our housekeeper, told her about it, and she did what I told her to do, and in 10 minutes, through a really random series of events, she ended up like basically doubling her work, getting brand new job leads and all of that kind of stuff that she wasn't even aware of. I mean, extremely random. I'll tell the story on the second, just because her story is just is crazy cool. Not 650 grand, but still, it just was a proof that it worked. It's simple, not necessarily easy, but it's simple. And so that's what we're going to kick it off with, is that.
A little bit of a bang.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a bang, actually. And even today, like I was given the download I got this morning, I was told, that wasn't a one-time thing. Like you can do this every day if you want to. And so, yeah. It'll be at noon, Ganty, on the 2nd.
Noon Eastern.
Yeah, noon Eastern. Sorry. Ganty asks, any new AI-based tools to search for good quotes based on a topic? None that I'm aware of specifically related to quotes. There are some new AI writing tools out, and there's been some major updates. And I am planning on revisiting AI writing tools later this year. Probably August.
You just told that little tidbit, and then boom.
Yeah.
Something unexpected.
Let's see.
That was crazy.
Ganty asks, any activity this Thursday, new courses live or recorded, anything? Thank you for today's lesson. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Initially, I had announced that there was going to be a new course come out this Thursday. It is not. And there's this very specific reason why. The sales page is written and all of that. But I decided there's 2 versions of the course that are going to be released. And I decided that I wanted to kind of get ahead of the game on it a little bit. So I've been recording videos for it. Actually, I'm doing 2 different courses at the same time. One is not going to be taught live. The other one is, but I'm pre-recording some of it because the second version of it, the larger version of it, is going to include an additional 27 hours of training and demo and stuff like that. And so I'm actively working on that part. But it will start next Thursday for sure. Because the whole course is written, the sales page is done, but I'm not ready to promote it yet. So
plus I gave you a honey-do list this week.
Yeah, I mean, remember we did just move a week or so ago, and we're still unpacking. We're getting closer, but it's been a hella crazy month for us. And so it's been cool to see things fall into place, but at the same time, it's still been a lot. So I will be rolling out the info related to the new course probably Thursday or Friday this week. And then we'll start live next Thursday. All right, I'm scrolling. I will be sending out a link, Donna, for sure. Debbie says, can't believe it's almost May already. I know. We got like an inch and a half of snow yesterday. Ridiculous.
It's not May.
Our business is not sold yet, Suzanne. But we're going to apply our magic juju to it. Val asked, how's Cat doing with the pigeons? It's like built-in television for cats. I mean, every day they're out there watching these pigeons. It's hilarious.
In the middle of the night, right across my head.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you all for your comments and everything. One thing that I do want to just mention here in passing, I think chances are likely that most of you already have this, but I figured since we were talking about public domain and books, I wanted to remind you, or if you're new here, to tell you about the last course that I taught on public domain books called Public Domain Book Hacks Volume 2. And if you go to the page, click on that magic link, it talks about what I taught in this specific volume, how to identify and leverage content trends, 7-step success formula for public domain books, best types of products from public domain books. Now, I'll let you in a little secret, okay? I have it priced here on the site at $67, but I actually forgot to update the price from the promo I did a couple weeks ago. So if you click on the purchase link, it's actually $44 still. It won't remain that because now that I know the error of my ways, I can go in and change it. But I'll leave it alone for a day or two, just in case you want to save some money. And the bundle price is, I think, $147 if you want to get volume 1 and volume 2 and the resource database. Yes, it is $147. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of mention that just so that you would have access to it. If you didn't get the course, it's a lot of fun. And it goes along perfectly with what we were talking about tonight. So here is that link again. Actually, let's just copy the link here. I'm going to put it in the chat. I already had the thought, Debbie. I beat you to it, sort of. So there's the link to it. It's in the chat. And if you want to check it out, now's the time to do so. Amy says, Kitty TV, I have a watering thing for birds just outside the window. My cats are always mesmerized when the birds are drinking. Yeah, I don't know what they think they're going to do to the birds. And the birds, I think, understand what's going on. They understand what's up. So
Birds totally taunt them.
Yeah. And I love it. And then, of course, the other thing is Kristen has a fish tank with 3 fish in it. And so they have access to that as well. So usually in the middle of the night, they're sitting up on top of it, looking down, watching the fish, trying to terrorize them and stuff. It's got to keep cats entertained. Otherwise, you know, it isn't good. They like try to take you out in your sleep.
Or something.
I think that was established a long time ago.
That I'm off.
Yeah. So that's all I have, folks. Thank you very much for joining me here tonight. And of course, we'll be back next Tuesday night I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about next week. I have a possible direction that may be photography related. I'm not sure yet. I was thinking about that this morning. But anyway, hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Look for the email from me on Thursday or Friday, and we'll talk again soon. Oh, and one other thing that I do want to say. I know that like marketing people tell you that you got to mail your list every day so that it doesn't go cold and all of that. I respect all you guys much more than that. You don't need to hear from me every day if I don't have anything to say. So you probably notice that I've been more quiet lately, and that's because I'm not insecure and I'm not fearful that y'all are going to go away if I don't mail you every 1.2 days. So I'm going to mail you when I need to mail you and when I have something to let you know about. Other than that, I'm not going to beat you over the head with the next latest, hottest, greatest thing. That's just stupid. So anyway, you'll hear from me probably Thursday or Friday um, about the new course. And yeah, that's all that I have. So thank you all very much. We will talk again soon.